All right, let's cut the crap and dive headfirst into this messed-up world of Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
You send over some excerpts from the Wikipedia page. Looks like a whole lot of plot, and even some juicy drama from back in the day when Emily Brontë dropped this bomb on the world.
Yeah, she pissed off a lot of folks with this one. It wasn't your typical fluffy romance, that's for sure.
So what's the deal with this love triangle everyone's always going on about? Give us the lowdown.
You got Catherine Earnshaw,
Yeah.
right? She's caught between a rock and a hard place. Or should I say, two dudes. On one hand, you got Heathcliff, the brooding, mysterious bad boy. And on the other, there's Edgar Lytton, who's, well, let's just say he's more of the safe bet type.
Sounds pretty standard so far. What makes this shitstorm so different from every other love triangle out there?
It gets fucked up, trust me. This whole thing goes way beyond a simple love story. It spans generations, dragging everyone down with it. We're talking revenge, heartbreak, and some seriously dysfunctional family dynamics. Buckle up, because it's a bumpy ride.
Hold on, before we get into all that, you got to tell me about these unreliable narrators I keep hearing about. That's got to mess with the whole story, right?
Big time. We've got Lockwood, this outsider renting a place nearby, and Nellie Dean, the housekeeper, who's seen it all go down. It's like they're whispering in your ear. But you can never be quite sure if they're telling you the whole truth. It makes you wonder if anyone in this story is being straight with us.
Okay, so we're playing detective here, trying to figure out who's got an agenda and what the hell is really going on.
Yeah.
That's some next-level storytelling.
Brontë was a genius, no doubt about that. She also uses the setting to add another layer of complexity. You got Wuthering Heights, this wild, isolated house up on the moors. It's like a character in itself, reflecting all the untamed emotions running wild in the Earnshaw family.
And then you got Thrushcross Grange,
Right.
where the Lintons live. That's like the polar opposite, all civilized and proper.
Exactly. Brontë wasn't just picking random places. She was using the settings to symbolize the different forces at play in the story. Got the wild versus the tame, passion versus reason, all that good stuff.
Let's talk about Heathcliff, the ultimate bad boy. Where the hell did this guy even come from?
That's the million-dollar question. He's a foundling, meaning nobody knows his real parents. Maybe he's Romani, maybe something even more exotic. The book keeps it pretty vague, which adds to his mystery, and makes him even more of an outsider.
And that lack of belonging fuels a lot of his anger, right?
Absolutely. He's never truly accepted anywhere, so he's constantly fighting for his place in the world. But let's be real. This dude is also straight up cruel.
Oh.
We're talking next level vindictive. Is he just a plain villain, or is there something more to him?
That's what I want to know. What's the deal with this Byronic hero thing everyone keeps labeling him as?
Well, he definitely fits the bill. He's brooding, passionate, capable of both intense love and terrifying brutality. But there's also this racial element that a lot of people miss.
Wait, what? Tell me more about that.
The book never explicitly states his race, but there are hints scattered throughout, descriptions of his dark skin, rumors of him being a Lascar, all that. It adds a whole other dimension to his character and how society treats him. It makes you wonder how differently people would have reacted to the story if Brontë had flat out said, hey, this dude's not white.
Damn, that's some deep shit. We'll have to unpack that more later.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Catherine. She seems to be the eye of this hurricane.
She's got this epic dilemma, man. She's deeply in love with Heathcliff, but she ultimately chooses Edgar. For the security and social status he offers, it's a classic battle between the heart and the head.
And that one choice fucks up everything.
You got it. It's like she sets off a chain reaction of misery that echoes throughout the entire story. And then there's that famous line, I am Heathcliff. She's talking about true love, self-destruction. Or maybe it's a desperate attempt to break free from the constraints of her society. It's open to interpretation, which is what makes it so damn fascinating.
Yeah. So she's a feminist icon for some, a tragic figure for others. Depends on how you look at it, I guess.
Exactly. Brontë was playing with fire here. She wanted to make people think, challenge their assumptions about love, society, and maybe even morality itself. Remember, this book was considered scandalous as hell when it first came out.
Why is that? What made it so shocking?
It's raw, man. You got violence, abuse, questions about religion. Brontë didn't hold back, and yet, for all the messed up stuff, it's still one of the most enduring love stories ever told.
There's got to be more to it than just the romance, though.
Right. You're catching on. Wuthering Heights is about so much more than just a love triangle. It's about class conflict, the abuse of power, and the destructive nature of revenge. These are themes that resonate with people, no matter what century you're living in.
And let's not forget about the whole Gothic vibe, right? The wild moors, the ghosts, Heathcliff's intensity. It's like a horror movie wrapped up in a love story.
Brontë took those classic Gothic elements and gave them this raw psychological depth that's both disturbing and captivating. It's a story that gets under your skin and stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface. There's a whole world of twisted relationships and questionable choices to explore.
We're just getting started. Stay tuned, because in part 2, we're going to dive deeper into those messed up dynamics and try to unravel the mysteries of Wuthering Heights.
The shit is just getting good, people. Don't touch that dial.
We'll be right back. All right, let's dig into some of these twisted relationships. Remember Hindley, Catherine's brother?
Yeah, the one who had a major hate-on for Heathcliff.
Jealousy, bullying, the whole 9 yards.
It's classic sibling rivalry, but on steroids.
And it only gets worse when their dad dies, and Hindley becomes the big man on campus at Wuthering Heights.
So he basically turns into the tyrant he always hated.
You could say that. He starts favoring his own son, Hareton,
while treating Heathcliff like absolute garbage.
It's a vicious cycle of abuse that just keeps on spinning.
And what about the wife? Frances.
She's an interesting one. A bit of a naive flower trying to bloom in a wasteland. I think she represented Hindley's attempt to claw back some sense of normalcy in his life, but it all goes to shit pretty quickly.
Yeah, her death sends Hindley spiraling down a dark hole. Booze, gambling, the whole 9 yards.
Talk about self-destruction. He basically throws away the family's legacy in a drunken stupor.
Which plays right into Heathcliff's hands.
You better believe it. Heathcliff sees Hindley's weakness and takes full advantage.
Oh, he gets his revenge.
He takes over Wuthering Heights, reduces Hareton to a servant, and revels in the sweet taste of payback. It's brutal, but you almost can't help but feel a little bit satisfied.
Let's not forget about Isabella, Edgar's sister.
Talk about a dumb bitch falling head over heels for Heathcliff, despite all the warning signs.
You know what they say? Some people just can't resist a bad boy.
She thought she could tame him, but she was just another pawn in his game.
And their marriage is a complete disaster.
Right. It's a train wreck. From day one, he treats her terribly, using her as a way to get back at Catherine. It's sad.
Sad reminder that Heathcliff isn't capable of real love.
He's so fixated on his obsession with Catherine that everyone else becomes collateral damage.
So she eventually escapes and has Heathcliff's son, Linton, but dies heartbroken.
The sins of the fathers and mothers definitely play a huge role in this story.
It's like a toxic legacy that just keeps repeating itself with each generation.
Then we got Cathy, Catherine's daughter. Seems like a good kid.
All bright and optimistic.
Completely unaware of the fucked up history she's walking into.
Of course not. There's always a catch. So who throws a wrench into Cathy's happy little life?
Enter Linton Heathcliff. Heathcliff's sickly, whiny son. He's the complete opposite of his father in every way, but just as capable of cruelty in his own passive-aggressive way.
Ugh. So he's like a watered-down version of the villain.
He's a product of his environment, you know?
Neglected by his mother.
And manipulated by his father. A tragic figure in his own right.
And what happens next? Does Cathy get sucked into the family drama?
Oh, she gets sucked in, all right. Heathcliff orchestrates a marriage between Cathy and Linton, purely as a power play to gain control of both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange.
Classic Heathcliff, using everyone around him like chess pieces in his sick game.
But then things take a turn for the weird. Remember how obsessed Heathcliff was with Catherine's ghost?
Yeah.
Well, that obsession starts to consume him entirely.
What do you mean? Like he goes full-blown crazy?
He's seeing her everywhere, man, especially in Cathy and Hareton, who both happen to have Catherine's distinctive eyes. It's like he's looking into the face of his lost love, but it's also a constant reminder of what he'll never have.
Damn, that's some heavy shit. So does he torture them?
Lock them up in the attic.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's like the sight of those eyes, or maybe just the exhaustion of a lifetime of bitterness, finally breaks him. He withdraws completely, stops eating, and basically wastes away until he dies in Catherine's old room. It's almost poetic, in a morbid kind of way.
So the big bad villain just withers away. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of anticlimactic.
Don't be so quick to judge. His death opens up a whole new chapter for Cathy and Hareton. Remember, she's been teaching him to read, trying to smooth out his rough edges. They've been through hell together, and now, maybe, they have a chance at something real.
Wait a minute, are you telling me there's a happy ending in this twisted-ass story?
Let's just say Brontë throws us a bone. Cathy and Hareton, bound by their shared trauma and a growing connection, plan to marry and move to Thrushcross Grange. It's like those two worlds, the wild and the tame, finally coming together in some kind of harmony.
Okay, I'll take it. But there's got to be a twist, right?
You know her too well. Nellie, our trusty narrator, mentions that locals have seen the ghosts of Heathcliff and Catherine wandering the moors together. Even in death, those two can't seem to escape each other.
Are you kidding me? So is it a love story or a horror story? I'm confused.
That's the beauty of it. Brontë leaves it open to interpretation. Are they tortured souls, forever trapped by their tumultuous passion? Or have they finally found some kind of peace in each other's presence? It's up to you to decide.
Well, I'm going to need a minute to process all this.
That's Wuthering Heights for you. It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it. It's raw, emotional, and thought-provoking.
All right, so we left off with Heathcliff kicking the bucket and Cathy and Hareton possibly maybe finding some peace. What happens next? Does Brontë let them have their happily ever after, or does she drop another bombshell?
Well, remember those haunting eyes Heathcliff was obsessed with? The ones Cathy and Hareton inherited from Catherine?
Yeah.
They play a big part in how things shake out.
Wait, so even in death, Heathcliff is still screwing with everyone?
Not exactly. It's more like his death gives Cathy and Hareton the space they needed to actually connect. They've been through so much crap, separately and together, that it's almost like a shared trauma bonds them.
So they find solace in each other's company. Kind of messed up version of love, but I guess it works for them.
It's not your typical fairy tale romance, that's for sure. But remember, Cathy's been teaching Hareton to read, helping him improve himself.
Right?
She sees something good in him, something worth fighting for.
Okay, I'm seeing a glimmer of hope here. But what about Heathcliff's control over Wuthering Heights? Does Hareton finally break free from that hold?
You bet he does. With Heathcliff out of the picture, Hareton is free to become his own man. He takes ownership of his inheritance, both the property and his own life.
So what's the final verdict? Do Cathy and Hareton get their happy ending?
Brontë gives us a taste of it. They plan to marry and move to Thrushcross Grange, merging those two worlds.
The wild and the tame.
That have been at odds for so long. It's like she's suggesting that balance is possible, even after all the chaos and pain.
I'm almost afraid to ask.
Yeah.
But I know it's coming. What's the twist?
Well, it wouldn't be Wuthering Heights without a little bit of eerie ambiguity. Nellie, our ever-observant narrator, mentions that locals have spotted the ghosts of Heathcliff and Catherine roaming the moors together.
Seriously, even in death, those two can't get enough of each other.
It's up for interpretation. Are they tortured souls, forever bound by their passionate but destructive love? Or have they finally found some sort of peace, reunited in the afterlife? Brontë leaves us guessing.
So what's the big takeaway from this whole wild ride?
I think Wuthering Heights is a story about the enduring power of love, but also its potential to destroy. It's about the cycles of abuse and the scars they leave behind, the impact of social class, and the struggle for redemption. But ultimately, it's up to each reader to decide what resonates with them the most.
Well, after this deep dive, I think I need a drink. And maybe a therapist.
That sounds like a plan. Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those stories that make you think, feel, and maybe even lose a little sleep.